September 8, 2018. Arthur Ashe Stadium. More than 20,000 people are watching. Serena Williams is standing one victory away from history. Across the net is 20-year-old Naomi Osaka, a young woman playing her first Grand Slam final against the player she grew up idolizing. This should have been a story about tennis. It became something much bigger, because before this match was over, Serena would be accused of receiving illegal coaching. She would smash her racket, she would confront the chair umpire, she would lose a point, then an entire game. And with millions watching, she would raise a question that would explode far beyond tennis. Would a man have been treated the same way? Some believed Serena had exposed a double standard hiding in plain sight. Others believed she had simply broken the rules and refused to accept the consequences. And caught between those two sides was Naomi Osaka, who was about to achieve her childhood dream and cry while receiving the trophy. So what actually happened that night? Was Serena Williams treated unfairly? Did the umpire simply enforce the rules? And how did one tennis match become a global argument about race, gender, power, and respect? To understand that night, we have to understand what Serena had survived just to get there. By 2017, Serena Williams had almost nothing left to prove. 23 Grand Slam singles titles, Olympic gold medals, years at world number one. She had dominated across generations. But then tennis stopped mattering. Serena became pregnant. In September 2017, she gave birth to her daughter, Olympia. And what followed was terrifying. Serena later described suffering serious complications after childbirth, including blood clots and emergency medical treatment. For one of the greatest athletes in history, the battle was no longer about winning, it was about recovering. Her body had changed, her life had changed, and when Serena eventually returned to professional tennis, she wasn't simply attempting another season. She was trying to prove that motherhood had not ended her greatness. Less than a year after giving birth, she arrived at the 2018 US Open, and somehow she kept winning, round after round, until only one opponent remained between Serena and another Grand Slam championship. One victory would bring her level with Margaret Court's then record total of 24 major singles titles. It was the kind of comeback sports mythology is built around: a champion, a mother, a medical crisis, a return, and history waiting on the other side. But history doesn't care about perfect endings. Because waiting across the net was a young woman who had spent years dreaming about Serena Williams. Naomi Osaka was only 20. She was appearing in her first Grand Slam final, and her opponent was Serena Williams. Imagine that psychologically. The person whose matches you watched growing up, whose greatness helped make your own dream imaginable, is suddenly standing across the net from you. And now you have to beat her. But Osaka didn't look overwhelmed. She looked ready. From the beginning, she attacked. Powerful serve, clean ground strokes, remarkable composure. And Serena struggled to impose herself. Osaka won the first set, 6-2. Suddenly, the fairy tale comeback was in danger. Serena needed to respond. The pressure was rising, and early in the second set, the chair umpire noticed something that would completely change the match. Serena's coach, Patrick Mouratoglou, was sitting in the stands. Chair umpire Carlos Ramos saw Mouratoglou making hand gestures towards Serena. Ramos interpreted those gestures as coaching. At the time, coaching from the stands was prohibited under Grand Slam rules. So Ramos issued Serena a code violation. Immediately, Serena objected. Not because the penalty had dramatically changed the score yet. Something deeper bothered her. The implication that she had cheated. Serena approached Ramos and insisted she had not received coaching. She told him she didn't cheat to win. For Serena, this was about her integrity. But there was a complication. After the match, Mouratoglou acknowledged that he had been trying to coach Serena. He also argued that coaching from the stands was common. But Serena maintained that she hadn't seen his signals. That distinction matters. Her coach attempting to communicate with her does not automatically mean Serena knowingly received his instructions. And this is where the story stops being simple. Ramos believed he had seen a violation. Mouratoglou admitted making the gesture. Serena believed she was being accused of something she hadn't knowingly done. 3 perspectives, 1 warning, and a match already under enormous pressure. Serena continued playing. For a moment, it appeared the controversy might disappear. It didn't. Serena managed to break Osaka's serve early in the second set. For a moment, momentum seemed to be changing. Then Osaka broke back. Serena's frustration erupted. She smashed her racket against the court. That action triggered another code violation. And because it was Serena's second violation, the penalty was a point. This was the moment everything changed. Serena had apparently not realized that the earlier coaching warning meant another violation would cost her a point. When she understood what had happened, she returned to Ramos. Now she wasn't simply frustrated, she was furious, because Serena still believed the first violation had unfairly questioned her character. And she wanted something from Ramos, an apology. The confrontation became increasingly emotional. Serena repeatedly defended her integrity. She insisted she had never cheated. And eventually, she called Ramos a thief, accusing him of taking a point from her. Ramos responded with another code violation, this time for verbal abuse. Third violation, the penalty, an entire game. The scoreboard changed. Osaka suddenly led 5-3. Arthur Ashe Stadium erupted. Thousands of people began booing. Serena called for tournament officials, and then she made the argument that transformed this from a dispute over tennis rules into an international cultural controversy. Serena argued that male players had said worse things to umpires without receiving the same punishment. Her point was essentially this: men are allowed to show anger. Why am I being punished for mine? And from that moment forward, the world wasn't merely debating Serena Williams versus Carlos Ramos. It was debating something much larger. Was Serena right? This is where weak documentaries choose a side, but the truth is more complicated. There was a legitimate argument supporting the umpire. Serena had received a coaching violation. She smashed her racket. She verbally confronted Ramos. The code contained escalating penalties. From that perspective, Ramos was simply applying the rules. But Serena's supporters raised a different question. Were those rules enforced consistently? Tennis has a long history of explosive confrontations between players and officials. John McEnroe became famous partly because of them. Jimmy Connors confronted officials. Other male stars have shouted, cursed, and argued during matches. But comparisons aren't always straightforward. Different tournaments, different officials, different language, different circumstances, different penalties. So pointing to one angry male player doesn't automatically prove Serena's punishment was discriminatory. But it does raise a legitimate question. How much anger is an athlete allowed to show before that anger becomes punishable? And is that line drawn exactly the same way for everyone? Billie Jean King publicly defended Serena's broader argument, saying that women are often labeled emotional when they express themselves forcefully, while men can be treated differently. Others strongly rejected that interpretation. Some former players and officials argued Ramos had followed the code and that Serena's fame should not exempt her from it. The debate exploded, and then another layer entered the conversation: race. To understand why race became part of the discussion, you have to understand Serena Williams' career. Serena and Venus Williams entered a sport where few athletes looked like them. They came from Compton. They were black women. They played with extraordinary power. And from the beginning, Serena wasn't merely analyzed for her tennis. Her body was discussed. Her hair was discussed. Her clothing was discussed. Her personality was discussed. Her celebrations were discussed. Her anger was discussed. At times, she faced hostility that was impossible to separate from race. One of the most painful examples came years earlier at Indian Wells, where Serena and her family described hearing racist abuse from spectators. That history mattered. It didn't automatically prove Carlos Ramos was motivated by sexism or racism. There is an important difference between historical context and evidence about one individual's intentions, but it helps explain why millions of people watching Serena in 2018 saw something larger than an argument over a tennis code. To some viewers, they were watching a powerful black woman being punished for refusing to quietly accept an accusation against her integrity. To others, they were watching a superstar who had lost control and was trying to turn a rules dispute into something larger. And those two interpretations collided almost instantly. But while the world was preparing to fight over Serena Williams, almost everyone forgot about the young woman standing across the net. Naomi Osaka had done nothing wrong. She hadn't issued the warning. She hadn't given the penalties. She hadn't started the argument. Her only job was to play tennis. And she was playing brilliantly. Imagine being 20 years old. You're facing your childhood hero. You're trying to win your first Grand Slam. 20,000 people are furious. Your opponent is arguing with officials. The stadium is shaking with boos. And somehow, you have to serve. Osaka remained composed, and eventually, Serena hit the ball into the net. It was over. Naomi Osaka defeated Serena Williams 6-2, 6-4. At 20 years old, she was the US Open champion. This should have been one of the happiest moments of her life. Instead, she cried. Not the tears you'd expect from someone who had just achieved her dream. The atmosphere had become so hostile that victory almost seemed uncomfortable. And then came the image that would outlive the argument. The trophy ceremony began. Boos filled Arthur Ashe Stadium. Osaka stood there crying. She pulled her visor down over her face. Think about how heartbreaking that image is. A 20-year-old had just beaten one of the greatest athletes in history in a Grand Slam final, and somehow she looked as though she needed to apologize. Serena saw it, and in that moment, Serena had every reason to think about herself. She had lost. She believed she had been wronged. History had slipped away. The stadium was furious. But Serena turned toward Osaka. She put an arm around her, and then she addressed the crowd. She asked them to stop booing, to give Naomi credit. And suddenly, this story became much harder to reduce to hero versus villain. Because the same Serena Williams who had exploded in anger minutes earlier was now protecting the young woman who had just defeated her. That moment doesn't erase Serena's behavior. It doesn't settle the argument over Ramos. It doesn't prove discrimination, but it reveals something controversy often destroys: complexity. People can lose control and still show compassion. People can make mistakes and still have legitimate grievances. And two competing truths can sometimes exist at once. Then came one of the strangest trophy ceremonies in sports. Serena stood devastated after losing. Naomi stood devastated after winning. Osaka apologized to the crowd for the result. Think about that. She had just become a Grand Slam champion, and instead of simply celebrating, she was apologizing. Serena tried to comfort her, and that image became perhaps the most important photograph of the night. Not Serena pointing at the umpire, not the broken racket, not the scoreboard. Two women standing together. One was an icon whose dream had collapsed. The other was a young champion whose dream had come true in the worst possible atmosphere. And behind them, thousands of people were still angry. The easiest version of this story says, Serena was the victim. Another easy version says, Serena behaved badly. Neither tells the whole story. Serena broke her racket. That's not disputed. Her coach attempted to signal instructions. That's not disputed. Serena confronted Ramos and called him a thief. That's not disputed. But there are other questions that cannot be answered by simply reading the rulebook. Why did Serena feel so deeply insulted by the coaching accusation? Were comparable confrontations by male players treated consistently? Did decades of scrutiny influence Serena's reaction? Did the media describe her anger differently because she was a woman? Did race influence how some people interpreted what they saw? Those questions don't all have simple yes or no answers, and perhaps that's why the match remains so fascinating. It exposed something bigger than Serena. It exposed how differently people can watch the exact same event. One viewer saw arrogance, another saw resistance. One saw an umpire doing his job, another saw a double standard. One saw a champion losing control, another saw a woman refusing to stay silent. Same court, same argument, same footage, completely different conclusions. There is a strange price that comes with becoming as famous as Serena Williams. Eventually, people stop allowing you to simply be human. Every victory means something. Every defeat means something. Every outfit means something. Every expression means something. Every angry moment becomes evidence for somebody's larger argument. Serena wasn't just Serena anymore. To millions of people, she represented female excellence, Black achievement, motherhood, power, defiance, America, change. And when a human being becomes a symbol, something dangerous happens. We stop asking what happened and start asking what the person proves about the world. Supporters defend everything, critics condemn everything, nuance disappears. But Serena Williams was never just a symbol, she was a competitor. And competitors get angry, they become frustrated, they make mistakes, they feel disrespected, they fight. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, and sometimes the truth lives somewhere uncomfortable between the two. Serena Williams did not win another Grand Slam singles title after that night. She reached more major finals. She continued chasing number 24. But the record-equaling championship never came. That gives the 2018 final an even more haunting quality in retrospect. At the time, it looked like one missed opportunity. Nobody knew how precious those opportunities would become. For Naomi Osaka, however, that night was the beginning. She had defeated Serena Williams. She had become the first Japanese player to win a Grand Slam singles championship. And she would go on to win more majors and become one of the world's most recognizable athletes. One champion was approaching the final chapters of an extraordinary career. Another was beginning hers. Their paths crossed on perhaps the most emotionally chaotic night either could have imagined. And years later, people still remember the argument. But maybe we've been remembering the wrong moment. Forget the broken racket for a moment. Forget Carlos Ramos. Forget the penalties. Forget the television arguments. Look at Naomi Osaka, 20 years old, Grand Slam champion, crying. Then look beside her, Serena Williams, the woman she idolized, the woman she had just defeated. Serena had every reason to disappear into her own disappointment. Instead, she recognized what was happening to Naomi and she tried to stop it. That's the moment worth remembering, because sports constantly tell us that greatness means winning. But sometimes greatness appears after the scoreboard has already decided you've lost. Serena did not handle every moment of that final perfectly. Neither do any of us. But perhaps that is exactly why the story matters. Because Serena Williams spent much of her career being treated as something larger than human. A champion, an icon, a symbol, a controversy. But underneath all of those labels was a person who had nearly died after becoming a mother, who fought her way back onto the biggest stage in tennis, who came within one match of history, who became furious when she believed her integrity had been questioned, who lost control, who lost the match. And then, when she saw a 20-year-old champion crying beside her, she chose compassion. So was Serena Williams treated unfairly that night? Or did an umpire simply enforce the rules? Maybe you'll watch the footage and reach your own conclusion. But one thing is certain, September 8, 2018 wasn't remembered because Serena Williams lost a tennis match. It was remembered because for a few extraordinary minutes, one tennis court became a stage for some of the most difficult questions in sports. Who gets to be angry? Who gets believed? Who gets forgiven? And do we judge everyone by the same standard? That's why people are still arguing about it. That's why people are still watching it. And that's why this became the match that divided the world. If you believe the greatest stories in sports begin where the scoreboard ends, subscribe. Because behind every champion is a moment that reveals who they really are. And sometimes, the moment that defines a legend isn't the moment they win. It's what they do after they lose.